Rumour has it Nikon have lost the plot. So what's gone wrong and how do they recover? We need a strong Nikon to increase competition and innovation in the industry. Let's look into that. Hi, I'm Tom and you're watching Rumour Has It. Please subscribe for camera news, rumour and personal opinion. Remember, your likes below help the channel grow. We only need to look back to the D850 to find Nikon at the top of their game. The D850 was announced in July 2017 and was first shipped in September 2017, going on to win Camera of the Year for that year and being the first full-frame DSLR to achieve 100 points of Dxomark, along with many other accolades. Nikon were flying high and struggled to fill even 10% of the pre-orders, and their back orders were running on for months. And this was before COVID screwed up the supply chains. A few of my friends owned one, and I have to say I was a bit envious, even though I had a Canon 5D Mark III at the time. The D850 seemed to have it all: full frame 4K, eye detection AF, 3D AF, 45 megapixel sensor, a native 64 ISO, 2 card slots and up to 9 frames per second. Back then this was impressive, and it holds up even today, so much so that many photographers are reluctant to update. And therein lies the problem. This reluctance wasn't helped by the lacklustre Z7 and Z6, which were a step backwards in a number of areas. Even the Mark II versions are barely equal to the D850. And that's with dual X-Speed 6 processors. The cameras have fewer focusing controls, a wicked electronic rolling shutter, and a restricted articulating rear screen. I also have a good friend who's owned both versions and tells me that the noise and recovering shadows on nighttime shots with his 7D Mark II is worse than the original Z7. That's inexplicable for Nikon, as this is normally a strength. Notice I've resisted comparing either of the Z6 or 7 to the Canon R5, the Fuji X-T series, or the Sony A7 series. It just wouldn't be a fair comparison. Nikon are effectively a generation behind, still trying to match the performance levels of their own DSLRs, whereas Canon has finally made a mirrorless camera that the users can't get enough of. The R5 and R6 are selling in huge numbers, with the users finally having the choice of a camera that outperforms the prior DSLR version. Nikon don't have this option yet, or the sales numbers wouldn't be so low. Looking at other recent releases in the Z range, we have the Z50 and more recently the Zfc. The APS-C category is the biggest seller, and not being competitive here is another reason Nikon are below the 10% in the Japanese SIPA listing. It's worth noting that Olympus exited the market on 8%, and Nikon are currently on 7.5%. The full listing for mirrorless sales is Sony on 35%, Canon on 30%, Fujifilm on 12%, Olympus on 8%, and Nikon on 7.5%. I'm not looking to gloat on Nikon here, rather I'm looking for where it went wrong and what they need to do to recover and get back into the top 3. The Z50 wasn't as well received as Nikon hoped. It was comparable with the Canon M50 Mark II, which was a third lower in price and attracted buyers with its social media features and ease of live streaming. Most current reviews of the Z50 put it below the Canon M6 Mark II, the Fuji X-T30 and the Sony a6400. Now the Z50 is a great camera, but it's not captured the market's attention and it has no standout features. Since its release, Nikon have released the Zfc, a retro-style camera which is looking to take on Fuji. But, and there is a but, it's basically the Z50 in a new skin. It does bring a fully articulating screen, a first for Nikon, and the USB-C socket that will power the camera. However, the Zfc, like all the Z series before it, has no standout competitive feature that differ from the cameras in its class, like the Sony a6400, the Fuji X-T30, or even the aging Canon M series, which is still the biggest seller in this category. This is a big problem, and no amount of styling will get them out of it. So what's the problem, and how will Nikon recover from this low position? Well, one area they must focus on is the processor. The X-Speed processor is really not up to the job on power-hungry mirrorless cameras. Even fitting two of them in the Z7 II has barely brought it up to D850 levels of performance, and it's nowhere near the Canon R5 and R6 with the Digic X processor, or the Sony a7S III with its Bionz XR processor. These cameras reach levels of performance that Nikon can only dream of. And then we have autofocus. Even the casual observer will notice that Nikon lagged the field here. They've left it too late in developing AI detection algorithms, and even the basic eye detection is less accurate and less sticky than the Sony or Canon offerings, though it's been somewhat improved with firmware updates. And the strange thing is, although touting eye autofocus as part of the promotion material, the camera is actually shipped without it, and it had to be added later as a software update. Nikons do have a back-illuminated sensor, which is an advantage over Canon, but come the R3 and its stacked sensor, that advantage will be gone. Now looking at lenses. They're lagging behind Canon RF lenses, and that's a real measure because both companies announced new mounts and lenses around the same time. Sony have a lead on both companies at the moment, but Canon is doing a better job at catching up. So what does the future hold for Nikon? Well, we do have a development announcement for the Z9, expected to arrive late November, December, with a new X-Speed processor and better AI autofocus promised. And the rumoured specs look very promising. But being a flagship camera, it's unlikely to sell in the numbers needed to recover their financial position and CIPA ranking. What Nikon really need is to trickle down any exciting new tech they deliver in the Z9 into competitive mid-range Z7 III and Z6 III, cameras that can rival the Canon R5 and R6. Nikon also need to breathe some life into their APS-C range. The Z50 needs better autofocus and would also benefit from improved processor to rival the M6 Mark II and the A6400 performance levels. If Nikon actually deliver on those Z9 development specs, can they also trickle it down while maintaining the price on the mid-range models? Maybe take a leaf out of Sony's playbook and release a feature-packed bargain camera like the A7 Mark III at a price point that will encourage people to switch brands or trade in their old D850 if they'll give it up. Time will tell. So what do you think needs to be done? Have you got a handle on where it went wrong? And do you have a solution for Nikon's problems? Add your comments below, even if it's just to tell me I've got it all wrong. Thanks for watching, Rumour has it. I hope you found this useful. Like, and if you're new here, click the subscribe button below. It really helps the channel grow. And for my part, I'll continue to bring you camera news, rumour, and personal opinion.